how could we know to solve discrimination and ethnic problems in our own society to make a better place and a better future for everyone? Well, this can be solved by considering three main aspects that are understanding our own cultural context, applying education to emphasize the need to involve the integration of many beliefs and perspectives about ways of seeing things to reduce racism, and also by understanding that ethnicity is a way to comprehend how we understand our surroundings, and we can also learn about the culture and ways people involved in our own society. Well, at first, I wanted to emphasize there was a research made in the University of Chile that considered different aspects in education. There was a teacher that was named Gardner, that he focused on understanding how different societies interact with each other and how people see that in a way that to be involved with others, even if they have different ways of thinking, culture, ethnicity, or even previous history that makes them who they are. Well, this research made them believe that by integrating education since a young age, and also considering an interaction with different cultures and ethnicities, as we can understand and integrate different perspectives, and we reduce discrimination and racism. People who interact more with different cultures and ethnicities since they are young, they tend in the future to acquire more social skills, and also to eliminate inadequate opinions and have more applied background when trying to understand how others think and feel. So this is important. Education is a really important thing to consider, because if we tend to analyze how others tend to act, and also how we can act to make any situation better and more efficient, we can acquire better opportunities in our life. And it's really important, education, since a young age. Also, we have to emphasize the need of cooperation, and understanding the cultural context doesn't mean to generalize and make an emphasis on stereotypes, because sometimes in our culture we tend to say that one person, because he belongs to a culture, that culture represents the cause of a problem of a bigger society. So this happens a lot in many societies, because they don't tend to understand what makes these people who they are. Because culture is a really complex thing, and we cannot just understand it as a single cause thing. It's a multifactorial thing that occurs in many different ways. Because people who doesn't live in a culture that predeceased their history, but they live in a new country that, or another place in the world, they tend to have different ways of thinking than those of people who live in a country where there's war, where there's discrimination, where there's segregation. So culture depends on whether the person lives or not in a certain place. So this is important to consider. There was another teacher, another professor in this university that analyzed the way of thinking of these people that belong to different societies. Because people who were like Muslims or tended to have um, a history of that predecessed them and lived in other places, they compared different people from the same place, but who lived since they were really young, they were separated, and they were sent to different sites in the world, and they analyzed this behavior. This professor, in the end, concluded that people who are set on a specific way in a specific environment tend to have different skills and different perspectives than, and it doesn't depend only on your ethnicity. This was one of the comparisons he made. He was the Professor Lund from the University of Chile, and there was another point that was really important, that was to consider the history that predeceased racism. Racism has been a really complicated topic since centuries, and is really complicated because people tend to segregate another societies because they don't understand how they could apply to their own way of living. So, as we said before, this investigation of the Professor Gardner that told us that education since a young age can lead to better social skills and better interaction to reduce racism can lead to better opportunities. In this case, we have to understand that to act accordingly to reduce discrimination is to set a really vast perspective or background, understanding not just the general aspect of what race, ethnicity, cultural context means, but also understanding that every person has a specific point of view, and we have to understand the specific way that each person sets his ideals. That's the way to really integrate people from different cultures, different contexts, reduce racism, and be better in society. So I invite you to really have always an open perspective about other people who think different, because sometimes those ideas may help you to enrich your own culture and be better in the future and have more opportunities. Thank you.